last sentence.
Yes.
It was very moving. It was a great moment to have Modi in the Knesset. I was listening to the Prime Minister's Modi in the Knesset. He gave a beautiful speech, so important. I want the people in India to know that we see India as one of our closest allies, second only to the US. So I just want to share my perspective on India. We really see a mutual values that we share.
Yes.
Two peaceful nations, and when you are a peaceful nation, it doesn't mean.
In fact, Amichai, I want you to stay on for just 1 minute, because my next guest is someone who the whole country respects. Is probably India's most prominent public intellectual, and he's joining me now. He's the chairman of the Vivekananda International Foundation. He's a legendary journalist, legendary thinker, and great geostrategist. And my next perspective to him, and he joins us right now, Mr. Gurumurthy. Mr. S. Gurumurthy is joining us from Chennai. And my next section, Amichai, and by the way, Mr. Gurumurthy, our first guest, I just was introducing him to you. Amichai Chikli is Minister for Diaspora Affairs of Israel. And he was ending his conversation with a deep sense of respect for the way in which Mr. Narendra Modi spoke in the Knesset. And he said that it's a great, there's a strong emotional bond that he himself felt as a minister when he was there in the cabinet. So would you like to say something to him, and then we'll switch? So Amichai, I just wanted to introduce you because this conversation flows from what you're saying. My next subject with Mr. Gurumurthy was about whether there's a silver lining in this for India. Would you like to say something to the minister before we start our one-to-one conversation? Mr. Gurumurthy, please.
Actually, these two are two ancient civilizations. And I have pursued the history of Israel, ancient and modern. And my spiritual guru, Kanchi Mahaswami, always told me that India and Israel must come together. When we were poles apart, we didn't even have a proper relationship with them. And Swami Dayananda Saraswati, who headed the Hindu Dharma Acharya Sabha, entered into an MOU with the Jewish rabbinate. They both agreed that Hinduism and the Jewish religion, they agree on a God who has no form. Our God is Brahman, their God is formless. They signed an MOU that the forms in the Hindu pantheon is not Hinduism. It is only a step to understand a formless God. This MOU was signed in 2008 in Tel Aviv, and that is how the civilizational relationship between the two nations began growing. And after 2014, it took a geopolitical form, and now it has become between two old civilizations coming together in the contemporary world to face common danger. Both of us face danger from Islamic fundamentalism and terrorism. Okay, so I was listening to his exposition to you, and I'm extremely happy that Israel has initiated this move. And I will not be arrested by the war theater, and I will go into what it has exposed the world to. So
yes.
I would
may I just thank him before we can carry on with you. So Amichai, this is so interesting. And while I am often cynical of war and its immediate consequences, I don't believe regime change can immediately happen. Let me say this to you, Amichai, that there is a lot of sympathy and empathy for Israel's position and your war against Islamist and jihadi terrorism. So in that sense, you have our full support. I thank you very much, Mr. Minister. We'll remain in touch. Thank you very much, sir.
We feel the same.
Yes,
we
please.
See what's going on with Pakistan. We are fighting the same vicious and evil radical ideologies. same vicious and radical ideologies. We are two ancient nations, two peaceful nations, but we need to be very, very strong because our enemies are very serious. May God bless India. And thank you for this wonderful interview. It was really, I'm really happy that I was introduced
You're
to this outstanding intellectual and to yourself. So, namaste.
Thank you. Namaste. Namaste, Amikai. We'll be in touch. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Hi.
Ladies and gentlemen, today's section I have with Mr. Gurumurthy is simple. Is there a silver lining for India? My dear viewers, I would request all of you to follow Mr. Gurumurthy's threads and retweets on X. Now, he puts it in a larger context. And I believe, Mr. Gurumurthy, that you have tweeted that one of the biggest takeaways of this ongoing war is that Wahhabism, which Saudis funded, which virtually destroyed the internal peace and communal harmony in many ways within India, is now under challenge. Is that the silver lining for India in your view?
See, actually, if you move away from the war theater, I won't be arrested by the war theater, which is a day-to-day occurrence, who gains what and all that. But what is the takeaway from what has happened? Nobody planned it.
Yeah.
For example, this entire thing started with Iran proclaiming for the last 4 decades death to America and death to Israel. If a country keeps on saying this, how do you expect Israel or America to view Iran with any sense of friendliness? This is the first point. Then the Hamas attack was an attempt to execute this idea. And that is how the whole war started. And so this war is not a new war. It is a continuation. And this war was inevitable. If it doesn't happen today, it will happen at some time later. So I will not be arrested by this war theater at all. And I will go into what this has exposed. When US and Israel attacked Iran, it said it is Islam versus US and Israel. But the very next day, Iran began attacking all the Muslim countries. And they happen to be Sunni Muslim countries, Islamic countries. A Shia Islamic country attacking Sunni Islamic country brings about a paradigm shift, because these Sunni Islamic countries are already fighting Islamic terror. And you are now attacking them, which means US plus the Sunni Islamic nations which are fighting Islamic terror on the one hand, and Iran with all the terrorist groups on the other, is the formulation today. This is precisely what India would love the world to encounter. Such a thing could never have happened by any geopolitical formulation or any geopolitical strategy. It happens only from hidden forces of history suddenly act, because the hidden intentions come out in a situation like this. So what Iran said as Islam versus the rest, Islam itself destroyed that concept and turned it into Islam which wants to fight Islamic terror, to ally with US and Israel against Iran, which has allied with all the Islamic terror groups. And now, in this, the most important difficulty is faced by Pakistan, which is partly gripped by Islamic terror, influenced by Islamic terror, and which used Islamic terror to fight India. And it is now being asked by Saudi Arabia, now you attack Iran. Pakistan has openly supported Iran. And now Saudis are asking Pakistan to attack Iran. Can there be anything more that India could ask? the more difficulty Pakistan is in, the more advantageous the situation for India. Particularly when Pakistan is in difficulty because of its own Islamic ecosystem, where its duplicity is getting exposed. This is an important takeaway for India. Another thing, look at how Israel and India coming together has resulted in another geopolitical advantage. Prime Minister Modi makes a huge impact on Israel. And of course, this has not come about in one day. There is a history of a decade behind it. And he requests Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu to support Afghanistan, which is fighting Pakistan and which is fighting Islamic ISIS within Afghanistan. And Israel agrees to give an aid package. Would anything more India would want? Now you have to set it in the background of how the world order has changed in the last 5 years. Now there is no common good for which all nations are joining together, including environment. No trade, no economic issues on which are common issues on which the world is working together. Every nation is for itself today. It has to work out its own friends. It has to work out its own bilateral and plurilateral trade arrangements.
Yes.
America has declared that it is for America is for America. And how can India say that it will stand for some other country which is not in its interest today?
No,
So
the battle for oil, the battle for oil, Mr. Gurumurthy, is making this war now global because, as you have also retweeted, I think, from the Islander, now the Iranians are very strategically hitting pipelines which carry Azerbaijani crude across the Caucasus. That has been targeted. So it will create an oil shortage for Israel. The pipeline that has been hit will affect 30% of Israel's oil. So this tells me that there is a strategic mind, regardless of the impression Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump and Marco Rubio want to give. There is somebody in Israel taking extremely cold strategic decisions in this battle for oil. However, I want to go back to your commentary on Pakistan, sir. Sir, there are 5 reasons I believe Pakistan, the situation is volatile. Number 1, Pakistan's geopolitical utility is under question. Maybe for the first time in 50 years, there's a major conflict and they have no role. Their utility for America is under question. They have no role for America. They can't afford to take a role. As you say, they're also being threatened by Iran. And they are facing relentless attack by the Afghans and the Baluchis. Sir, you have tweeted that Pakistan has leveraged on falling on Trump's feet in Operation Sindoor with the Saudis. Now that scene has changed. It can't fool the Middle East, which is Sunni fighting Shia, and they will get crushed in the Shia-Sunni war. Sir, to add to that, they have not done anything to defend Saudi's strategic interests, despite having an agreement signed recently for mutual military assistance if either country is targeted. What do you think they will do? Will they just sit here and do nothing? Will they be like Switzerland in this whole case? And how can we take advantage of this for our long-standing objective vis-a-vis Pakistan?
See, I will put it in 3 silos. Saudis felt that America may not be able to defend them against Israel. They felt that they should somehow work out an arrangement with Iran.
Yeah.
They moved even with Turkey to bring about some kind of arrangement with Iran. It actually meant their confidence in America was getting reduced. And since Pakistan is a nuclear power, they thought it is better to have an arrangement with Pakistan. So if anything happens to Saudi Arabia, Pakistan will step in as a partner. This entire thing changed because of the outcome of this first day of this war itself, where Iran, for no reason, after having declared it is a war between Islam and the West, that is America and Israel, it began attacking in the guise of attacking the American bases. It began attacking the nations which and their infrastructure and even their hotels, and turned the war into what I told you as a war with Iran and the terrorist group and extremism on the one hand, and those Muslim nations which are fighting it on the other, aligning with America. So this has put Israel and Arabic nations on the one side, which means the threat that Saudi Arabia faces is not from Israel today. It is facing from Iran. And there is a historical basis for this. And so the pact between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan has become irrelevant. That is why they are testing Pakistan. Say you attack, because you are a partner, you attack Iran, which Pakistan cannot. If it attacks Iran, Pakistan will be on fire. So that is, Pakistan is not being reduced to irrelevance. It is being put in a corner from where Pakistan may not survive as a nation. So it is not that it will become a Switzerland. Number two, Pakistan is facing a war with on both sides. And if, as the Pakistan president says, India will also do something against Pakistan, where will Pakistan be? And so the entire foundation of Pakistan is at risk. It won't be Switzerland. Another thing, so far as this oil is concerned, precisely what Ukraine did, that has happened to the oil pipelines in Middle East. Now the entire Europe is looking to Russia for gas supplies, oil supplies. The sanctions of America against Ukraine, against Russia, are bound to collapse. India will now buy oil from Russia because the war has been started by America. America cannot question India or even Europe. Where are you going for oil or gas supplies to Europe? And so it has brought about a fundamental shift even in the Ukraine war. Impact is so multi-divisional. It will require some time even to grasp the changes that are taking place in the world.
Mr. Gurumurthy, my last question was on those lines. You see, the Strait of Hormuz is carrying most of these global oil shipments. If this chokes, should we use the opportunity to quietly tell the Americans, let us resume our oil trade with Russia, at least for the short term, rather than face an oil crisis? Can we therefore leverage the situation and continue to fortify our oil relationship with Russia? Because that way we can balance both sides, the Russians, while giving strategic support, at least in some way, to the Americans and the Israelis, standing with them, but continue our relationship, our fuel and oil diplomacy with Russia. Is it possible to do that, given the present situation?
You see, we have not committed to America that we will not buy oil from Russia. We have said we will diversify our sources.
Yeah.
And we will buy from you also. We will buy from Venezuela.
Can I have the guess?
And we are buying from Middle East. Let's assume this Middle East supply stops. Where will you go for supplies? And so India is bound to buy oil from Russia. And what Americans can do, can they go back to imposing the tariffs? Let them do it. This is the situation in which India will place America, because America is not in a position to act unilaterally. And America is also under pressure from this war. And even Israel will not like America to alienate India to the extent to which Trump had alienated. And another, there is a soft corner for Russia in the American mind. In fact, America has alienated the European nations because it is supposed to be looking at Russia for whatever reason. There are, they say, economic reasons are there, reasons of natural resources are there, but there is a soft corner which America has for Russia. And now, if Russian oil or gas is to flow to Europe, which is the only way to save Europe, then America cannot object to India buying oil from Russia. So my feeling is our oil security can be supported, supplemented, and will indeed be supplemented by our buying oil from Russia.
Well, Mr. Gurumurthy's understanding, therefore, is that we have to weigh our options very closely. There is a silver lining. Ladies and gentlemen, that, he says, is a big takeaway, that Wahhabism, which has hurt India, has been weakened considerably. And viewers, my takeaway from hearing Mr. Gurumurthy is watch the situation in Pakistan with as much interest as the situation in the Middle East. I thank you, Mr. Gurumurthy. It's always very useful to get your unique perspective on history-defining moments like this. I thank you very much, sir, for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, so we are in a comfortable position as of now on energy security. I'm talking of India. Current position of stock is comfortable, and our stock is also being replenished every day. There is no shortage of LPG or LNG in India. There is no need for any panic. But as we analyze our oil reserves, gas reserves, and look at all options globally for crude and LNG, there are reports that at least 2 Russian oil tankers that were initially expected to dock in East Asia have changed course to India, signaling in a way that Russian oil is back on the table. The change, of course, comes amidst great turmoil in global energy markets as the war in the Middle East widens with no end in sight. So, is Russian oil, ladies and gentlemen, back on the table? Today's major development is the hitting of the oil pipeline which runs through the territory of Georgia, carrying Azerbaijani crude for Israel. So we have to look at all other alternative oil routes, including the one which is on the map, for our own purposes. Now, there's no morality, ideology, ethics in this. We've got to be practical. Should we bring Russian oil back to India? I'm joined by Professor Madhav Nalapat, great strategic voice from India. And we have strategic affairs and governance expert from Ukraine, Olena Trigub, who has a Ukrainian view on this matter. Olena, see, the world is going to go through a very, very difficult situation on oil. Large countries like India with huge demand, huge internal consumption, we'll have to make arrangements for our people. There is a growing view in India that we must aggressively now buy Russian oil and buy it at the prices that work for us and work for Russia. Rest of the matters can come later. What do you think, Olena?
Well, I would like to respond to what you just said about the fact that you say that it's not about morality. Yeah, let's not talk about morality. Let's not talk that Indian money will be funding the killings of Ukrainians. But let's talk about practicality here. When you buy Russian oil, you are funding a very aggressive regime. You are funding a country which is starting wars. And what is happening now in the Middle East, it's actually the logical continuation of what Russia did when Russia started invading Ukraine and the whole international order collapsed. And Russia will use your money to make more weapons Russia will use more money to destabilize world even more, to help different other authoritarian countries like Iran, like North Korea, to start more wars in Europe, for example, against the Baltic states. All these are long-term consequences, but if India is not concerned about the global peace, then India should buy Russian oil.
Well, I let Professor Nalapat respond to that. I personally think today that the United States of America is the biggest threat to world peace. And Donald Trump is the greatest global destabilizer. This war that we are seeing has not been started by Vladimir Putin. This has been started by your very own Donald Trump and by the United States of America. And it is entirely an American war, right? So I don't think that argument holds. And if we were to be buying oil from Venezuela, that is American oil literally, we would be funding America's war if that one puts a moral argument lens to it. Is Russian oil back?
You can buy from Brazil, from Africa. There are other countries that can sell you oil.
Yeah.
Well, Professor Nalapat.
Yeah, Arnab, I'd like to point out that if a big block of oil is taken out from the market, prices spike. Now, for a time being, prices are spiking because of the problem of supply of crude through the Persian Gulf. The Strait of Hormuz is almost closed now. Hardly 3 or 4 ships have got the courage to go through Strait of Hormuz, which is about a few percent of what it earlier was. The fact of the matter is that Europe has committed a great harm to itself by blocking off access to Russian crude and other supplies, and that has hurt the economies of all the European countries very, very badly. If I were in a Ukrainian situation, I would say very clearly, whatever you have now, you make a peace with Russia, because quite frankly, this war has been very costly for the people of Ukraine. They have suffered terribly, and I think that suffering needs to stop. As far as India is concerned, Mr. Gurumurthy is right. We have not committed to not buying Russian oil. Russians have been age-old friends of India, and we have maintained that relationship through decades, right from the 1950s. So I'd like to point out, Arnab, that in this situation, where there's a complete blockage to the Strait of Hormuz, Russian oil is a good idea. Here's where you should reinvigorate that Vladivostok to Chennai, that sea route that was staged. Only one problem that we have is we were reliant on Chabahar for accessing a lot of supplies. Now Chabahar obviously is off the table, but the shining, what do I say, silver lining here is very clear, and that is the United States and Israel do not expect this war to last very long, maybe 10 days to 15 days at the most. And after that war is over, things can settle back to normal. Chabahar can open under a regime which is not beholden to a clerical establishment there, which is anti-Israel, anti-US. So I'm quite hopeful that in 10 to 15 days, maybe a day or two more here and there, you're going to see a resolution of the issue to the satisfaction of all democracies, and you're going to see a situation in which this very hated clerical regime run by a supreme leader. Can you imagine the irony of it? The Iranian people revolted in 1979 to get rid of the despotic Shah and replace him with a democratic government. And they got the despotic Khomeini, and now then Khamenei, and now who knows who's going to come next, covering in some basement somewhere for fear of being murdered. So I would like to say to my Ukrainian friend, please, for heaven's sake, follow the wisdom of India and do not have enemies in that situation. Prime Minister said back in 2022, if you remember, this is an era of peace. And in the era of peace, countries should be working together with each other instead of fighting each other. So that is what India looks for. And India and Russia have been age-old friends for a very long time, and that friendship is going to continue. And also, I think we are going to find a big increase in the Russian exports of oil to India, given that there are shortages in the Middle East through Strait of Hormuz, at least for the next 10 to 15 days. So I would like to say there is a question of ethics involved. The ethics in India's case, feeding 1.4 billion people. The ethics in India's case, making sure 1.4 billion people have energy security. That's not a small proportion of the market. That's a huge proportion of the human population, 1/6 of it. So that is an ethical question. That's a moral question. How can a leader say, I have no right to do anything helpful for 1.4 billion people for sake of a faraway country like Ukraine? It makes no sense at all. So I'd like to say I am all for buying Russian oil, and I hope that
on the first point which Olena responded to when I said that it's not the time to take a moral position on the purchase of oil. In fact, Olena, would you agree with me that this military action and this assassination of Ayatollah Khamenei and the attack on Iran actually helps Russia? Because helps Russia because it makes one, Putin look like a peacenik. Secondly, it is a vindication for Russia that in the pursuit of territorial or strategic interests, right? Rule of law, global rule of law is not something which is going to hold back any country from pursuing its own national interest. So the same argument being put in a way now by Marco Rubio, Olena, when he says that rule of law be damned, ideas of democracy be damned, we will just do what is required to win. So this position being taken by America actually in a way therefore vindicates Trump's aggressiveness, doesn't it? Putin's aggressiveness, doesn't it?
Well, this is what I was saying, is that this demise of the global rules started with actually Russia, because not only Russia went into Ukraine to invade it, Russia occupied Ukrainian territory, Russia added parts of Ukraine into its constitution. Something like this has not been done since Adolf Hitler. And this is something which was done before the end of the World War II, because we all agreed that we will not be taking each other territory and annex each other and so on. But Russia has done it. And of course, after this, Russia wanted to break the international rule-based order. Russia wanted just to have a world where strong countries with the military will be dictating what is happening and nothing else matters. And of course, Donald Trump in this whole situation between Russia and Ukraine, does he support Russia or does he support Ukraine? No, Donald Trump supports Russia. Donald Trump said many times that he likes Putin, he is a friend of Russia, not friend of Ukraine. It's very clear. So now when it's very clear that he also likes the way Putin attacked Ukraine, the way Putin demonstrated that he doesn't care about United Nations or anything like that, about EU. Donald Trump likes this, and he does the same. This is obvious, but does India like this? Does India like Donald Trump and Putin? If India wants to say that it's a democratic country, Ukraine is a democratic country, and Ukraine is a very peaceful nation. We were very peaceful until we were attacked by Russia. And right now, we cannot make peace with Russia just because Russia doesn't want to make peace. Russia wants to kill all Ukrainians and destroy the whole Ukraine. It's existential war. And watch Russian television and listen what they're talking about, even killing Ukrainian children, because they say when Ukrainian children will grow up, they will hate Russia. So it's important to eradicate the whole nation. So please explain, how should we make peace? Should we kill ourselves and then it will be peace? Or what is your idea? Because I don't fully understand.
No, I don't have a idea about it. But what I'm saying, Olena, is that we have a practical situation where we have huge oil requirement, huge gas requirement. We are the most populous country in the world. And therefore, we have to do whatever is possible for our people in case this war drags on for more than 2 or 3 weeks. So I think that's all. I mean, I wanted to say there's no pro or anti this. I appreciate and respect your point of view. I wish peace returns to Ukraine. But I believe that at this point of time, whether Putin or Donald Trump and maybe Xi Jinping tomorrow, you are seeing a different nature of territorial expansion in which the rules-based order is being turned upside down. I thank you both very much for your perspective. Professor Nalapat and Olena Tregup.
Thank you.
Joining us this evening from Thiruvananthapuram and Ireland, respectively. Thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, as there is talk of Russian oil coming back, as the war spreads into the Caucasus, as Pakistan is threatened from absolutely all sides, and we are all in the crosshairs of a war that Donald Trump started. Once again at 9 p.m., with over 30 countries now involved in the Iran war, I ask tonight, how is this not a world war already? Look at these images. Look at the geographical expansion. How is this not a world war already? When I'm back.
Time for a quick breather. Arnab will be right back with the debate.
Powered by Century Ply Club Prime. Raho befikar.
अरे टेंशन किस बात की? सेंचुरी प्रोवुड का प्रीमियम प्लस है ना, लो एमिशन है, हाई डेंसिटी है, वाटर रेजिस्टेंट भी, टर्माइट एंड बोरो रेजिस्टेंट भी है। यानी ये है जहां नो टेंशन वहां।
प्रीमियम प्लस बाय सेंचुरी प्रोवुड।
आर प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ,
8 मिनट में तैयार।
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला।
अरे टेंशन किस बात की? सेंचुरी प्रोवुड का प्रीमियम प्लस है ना, लो एमिशन है, हाई डेंसिटी है, वाटर रेजिस्टेंट भी, टर्माइट एंड बोरो रेजिस्टेंट भी है। यानी ये है जहां नो टेंशन वहां।
प्रीमियम प्लस बाय सेंचुरी प्रोवुड।
Powered by Century Ply Club Prime. Raho befikar.
अरे टेंशन किस बात की? सेंचुरी प्रोवुड का प्रीमियम प्लस है ना, लो एमिशन है, हाई डेंसिटी है, वाटर रेजिस्टेंट भी, टर्माइट एंड बोरो रेजिस्टेंट भी है। यानी ये है जहां नो टेंशन वहां।
प्रीमियम प्लस बाय सेंचुरी प्रोवुड।
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद, यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा, क्या स्वाद है? अरे मेरे राजा, सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला।
अरे टेंशन किस बात की? सेंचुरी प्रोवुड का प्रीमियम प्लस है ना, लो एमिशन है, हाई डेंसिटी है, वाटर रेजिस्टेंट भी, टर्माइट एंड बोरो रेजिस्टेंट भी है। यानी ये है जहां नो टेंशन वहां।
प्रीमियम प्लस बाय सेंचुरी प्रोवुड।
يا نعش اللي يشيل الشيعة، سرتنا طاح المرتفع.
Public Media Network headquarters, it's time for Arnab Goswami on The Debate. Arnab Goswami on The Debate.
This is a global war already. How is this not a world war already? You have to be absolutely unrealistic to even think or claim that this is a regional war. Ladies and gentlemen, as some commentators in the United Kingdom have been saying, if in place of Iran, this had been Russia that was firing missiles everywhere, you would have called it World War III. Let's get realistic. This is a world war already. 5 visuals that I need to bring you all up to date with. First, Tehran, in what I believe is World War III. A sports complex hit today. Missiles hit the Azadi complex, destroy the sports arena. Visual number 2, F-35 shooting down an Iranian fighter jet. An Israeli F-35 Adir operated by Israel tracking an Iranian Yak-130 fighter jet. Ladies and gentlemen, explosion as the jet hits the ground. Visual 3, Israeli interceptors halting an Iranian missile. These are interceptions by the Iron Dome of Israel. Visual number 2 from Qom in Iran. The satellite images showing strikes on Iranian air defense systems in Qom in Iran. Visual number 5 of an IDF strike on a Hezbollah structure, southern Lebanon. Ladies and gentlemen, southern Lebanon. And ladies and gentlemen, while these visuals are playing out, we can see that the world is divided into 3 divisions. The first, a group of countries in direct conflict with Iran, which are Israel and the USA. Niranjan and Aditi, can you come back to me? If you don't have the graphics, we'll put it on later, but you can't repeat those visuals on a full frame screen non-stop. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we can see that the globe is divided into 3 divisions. The first, a group of countries which are in direct conflict with Iran, which is Israel and USA. The second is a group of countries consisting of those nations who are allies of America and the US. Military facilities are being targeted by Iran in these countries. These are the 9 Gulf nations, which are Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Lebanon, Iraq, Cyprus, Oman, and UAE, followed by now UK, Greece, Azerbaijan, and finally the group of 6 countries indirectly involved in this war, which are France, China, Russia, Germany, and Australia. So if you look at it, this is already very much a global war. I'm afraid the graphics are not playing out in sequence, so this can be a bit confusing. We'll correct it later. Thank you very much. So ladies and gentlemen, there are 10 points I'd like to now come to. Aditi and Niranjan, thank you, on why this is already a world war. First, 22 plus countries are directly or indirectly involved in this war already. This number is growing by the hour and the scale of involvement is 2. If you look at indirect impact, this is 30 countries across the world. This is not a regional skirmish, therefore. This is a full-on retaliatory strike at an intensive scale. And the historical point to understand is that both World War I and II started off as what seemed like regional skirmishes, like it was seeming on Saturday, before it blew up into a full-scale war. Ladies and gentlemen, the countries hosting global bases of direct players are bearing the brunt. Global energy infrastructure is today under attack. If you see the map of the Strait of Hormuz, there is a clogging of the Strait of Hormuz in a way that has not been seen before. Therefore, as of this evening, global supply chains are in suspension. Iran has slammed the door on negotiation. There's no mediation in sight. The great powers are splitting into opposing camps. Trump is calling Keir Starmer names. This is a clear indication that the world is dividing because of this war. Allies and proxy allies are not solidly aligned. Most importantly, the war has reached the Indian Ocean. We saw what happened off the coast of Sri Lanka. Global stock markets and agencies are predicting sustained fallouts. The Dow has fallen, Goldman Sachs has issued warnings, the OPEC is seen scrambling. Even the body that adjudicates the laws of war says that presently a chain reaction is now underway. These 10 reasons, combined with the scale of involvement of various countries around the world, now reaching almost 30, makes this, in my view, already a world war. How is this, therefore, not a world war? If you're watching this video, the only thing I would say is it's a matter of time before half the world gets involved. After that, it's anyone's guess how this goes. Let's debate.
It began with preemptive US-Israeli strikes, taking out Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei.
Iran's formerly supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead. This wretched and vile man had the blood of hundreds and even thousands of Americans on his hands and was responsible for the slaughter of countless thousands of innocent people all across many countries.
But now over 30 countries have been pulled in through military support, base access, or defense deployments, or strikes and destruction. From Europe to Asia, Israel and United States of America attacks have now triggered a cascading global response. The war zone now stretches from Red Sea to Eastern Mediterranean, from Turkey to Sri Lanka. Iran is now attacking beyond West Asia. Azerbaijan claims Iranian drones hit its Nakhchivan airport, wounding 4 people. Italy, Spain, France, and the Netherlands are sending naval assets to Cyprus. This comes after an attack on British Royal Air Force Base on the island.
American planes are operating out of British bases. That is the special relationship in action. British jets are shooting down drones and missiles to protect American lives in the Middle East on our joint bases.
France has deployed a carrier group.
En plus des moyens déjà présents, des Rafales, des systèmes de défense antiaérienne et de radars aéroportés ont été déployés ces dernières heures. Et nous continuerons autant que de besoin cet effort.
Greece has sent fighter jets.
Αποστέλλεται άμεσα στην Κυπριακή Δημοκρατία. Η φρεγάτα Κίμων, μαζί με δεύτερη ελληνική φρεγάτα, η οποία θα φέρει το σύστημα Κένταυρος. Καθώς επίσης αποστέλλεται.
Italy is sending naval assets and providing air defense assistance to Gulf states. After saying no to war, Spain too is now sending its most advanced frigate to Cyprus. Beyond Europe, war tides have also reached Indian Ocean. US sunk an Iranian ship IRIS Dana 40 kilometers from the coast of Sri Lanka on Wednesday.
Yesterday, in the Indian Ocean, an American submarine sunk an Iranian warship that thought it was safe in international waters. Instead, it was sunk by a torpedo. Quiet death.
The conflict is rapidly taking the shape of a global war. Global economy is impacted. Oil prices are rising. Shipping routes blocked and global trade feeling the shock. The question now is, are we watching another world war unfold through a network of alliances?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, General G.D. Bakshi, Einar Tangen for the China view, for the India view, General G.D. Bakshi, Nikita Menkovich for the Russia view. Velina Chakarova is a geopolitical strategist from Vienna in Austria. I hope to get the European view from her. We have senior journalist Elik Lemholke, who's joining us from Atlanta for the US perspective, and Avishag Avi will join in a bit. Till then, I have Saurabh Shukla, our chief consulting editor from Washington. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Now, it has always been told to me that if I say this is a world war, I am being sensationalist. But as I see the war extending to the Caucasus, let me start with you, Saurabh. The war is now extended into the Caucasus. We have seen that oil pipelines which supply oil, 30% of the oil to Israel from Azerbaijan, have been struck and destroyed today. This tells me two things. One, that the war is spread into the Caucasus, it's a world war. Second, that there is a strategic mind in Iran which is carrying out these attacks, and these are not, as Pete Hegseth or Marco Rubio would have us believe, the Iranians flailing their hands and throwing their missiles wherever they can in one last act of desperation. It doesn't seem to be so. Your thoughts, please.
No, thank you so much. I think where this war is headed certainly is much beyond a regional conflict now. I would, even if I hesitate to call it a world war, but I would say certainly it's a global conflict of a dimension we haven't seen in the recent past ever. I also agree that there is certainly a mind that is working beyond Iran of what is happening. The Iranian attacks
beyond Iran, meaning
means I would say I won't put it past China, because I would say countries like China, they're getting directly impacted by this war more than anybody else. Their entire oil supplies, post Venezuela, post now Iran's oil supplies gone, which is the country which faces the biggest brunt, that's China. So even if they're not coming directly in the picture, as they did not do in the India-Pakistan war, which is now coming out to be true. I always said it on your network, beyond that it was their devious game. In some ways, I don't have empirical evidence at this moment, but I will have at some stage, because they tend to gain from this war, because they are the ones who are getting impacted because of this. And obviously, it's their devious designs behind it in some ways. If they come out in open, yes, this will turn into a world war. But for now, that's not happening. The weapon system. Where is the Iranian weapon system coming from? All the ballistic missile, all the defense systems that they had haven't been designed entirely by Iran on its own. It was the barter deal that they did with China and some extent Russia to get these weapon systems in place. That's a different thing, that their weapon system is getting exposed every day.
As usual, one second, Saurabh, yesterday, you always said the cat among the pigeons, and yesterday you had a fairly hot exchange with General Bakshi, who accused you of being a cheerleader.
Enormously, and he does it
louder, please. Can I have the fallback louder in the studio, Aditya and Niranjan? Yeah. Now, today you have said that China is remote controlling this. China says, quite unabashedly, that it does not have the ability to strike beyond its borders. Einar Tangen has said that 10 times every day on my shows for the last few days. Einar, Saurabh feels, and the world feels, the large section of people across the world believe now that there is an indirect involvement of China in terms of guiding the direction of the war while at the same time asking for peace.
Well, I mean, obviously, Saurabh doesn't have any evidence of this. I could speculate on a million different things. Maybe it's aliens, but let's stick to the facts. China did not engineer the U.S. or Israel striking Iran. That has been long building up for over a long period of time. In terms of what's happening, I agree with you. This is a world war, but it's being waged by Iran, and it's asymmetrical. The U.S. definitely has the upper hand in terms of the military. They have certainly been very clever in terms of arranging it so that Iran felt they had nothing to lose. But what is Iran's game? I don't hear that from many people. And this is what I would suggest to you. They're desperate. They're fighting for their home. They have said repeatedly that they're going to inflict damage. Well, if they can't do it militarily, I think they're trying to do it economically. If you start looking at the Middle East, if you cut off, the Straits of Hormuz, you're cutting off a lot of, of the food that goes to Saudi Arabia, many other places. Yes, they can find other routes. It's going to take some time. But let us say that the Iranians attacked. They've already attacked the oil facilities. Let's say they attack the water facilities. 60% of the water disappears. Saudi Arabia, they rely on these water systems. If they go, there's nothing to replace it. They wouldn't be able to, and that would have an effect between that and the oil of making the Middle East very hot. The supply of petrodollars that are keeping the United States afloat would disappear. And when that happens, a couple of things. One, there's no support for the dollar in terms of countries who are willing to buy these treasuries. And then there's also the other part where, this would literally dry up the system. And when that happens, the U.S. is going to be in very, very difficult straits. Debt issues, the U.S. dollar, oil going higher and higher. There's going to be discontent at home in the United States. So I think Iran's stated purpose is to inflict as much damage, and they're willing to take the whole rest of the world with them. They've made one exception.
It's also entirely possible here today, not with an accusatory tone, but realistically speaking, though China wants to project itself as America's best well-wisher, it's not. It's in a global power struggle with the US. And why wouldn't, Eric, why wouldn't China take advantage of the lack of maturity in the American political leadership, the ability to get provoked to go into action, whether on Israel's behest or on Saudi Arabia's behest, get into a war, because you're dealing with an individual who's both an egoist and a narcissist. And therefore, when you deal with such individuals, coupled with the fact that they are headline grabbers, you can provoke them into a situation and then watch quietly from the sidelines and say, we have nothing in this fight. But who's the beneficiary of all this, Eric? It's China. If you look at who's the economic beneficiary, China. Geopolitical beneficiary, China. Who loses out economically? Everyone except the American defense companies. So my question to you is, just your opening remarks, is this a world war already?
I'm inclined to agree with your graphics at the beginning of the show. I think you've made a compelling case as to whether or not we are in a world war. It does appear, as rapid as we've gone from beginning to where we're at now, it does appear that we are either in a world war or we are very close to the brink of a world war. Everyone seems to be coming to the table where at the beginning everyone was kind of hesitant. England was hesitant. France didn't want any part of it. Germany didn't want anything to do with it. And now all of a sudden you're seeing our old allies coming together, mainly from Iran's own military strategy, if you want to call it that. I'm still not real sure what their plan is for attack, other than to bring people who weren't going to get involved and bring them in to attack them. So I'm struggling with that as to why they would choose that route, because with the amount of countries that are now involved, with China not coming in and helping directly, or Russia not having the ability to come in and help directly, it just seems like Iran is heading for a clear-cut decimation of their military. This is 100%, I believe, is going to end up in a regime change at the end. But I do believe we are in a world war now. Yes.
Yes, I think. I mean, as far as the Russians are concerned, Eric, why should they step in? Because they are in a win-win situation right now. The world will be craving for every drop of Russian oil. Russian oil routes will be opened again. And unless there is a direct attack on Russian sovereign interests or their pipelines, they don't have to get involved. They'll make money out of this. Secondly, as is being increasingly argued geopolitically, Russia gains because Russia can say, we were right in Ukraine. We were right in Ukraine all along. Your position right now ends all the confusion about a rules-based order and all the lectures that were given to the rest of the world right now. Is this a world war already? General Bakshi, are we in the middle of World War III already? Are we just being too cautious in defining it as one?
Arnab, it is a full-scale regional war already, heading towards world war. If you recall, Arnab, at your conclave last year, I had made this, stuck my neck out and said, we are quite likely to get into a World War III kind of a situation. May I just tell you that if I was the Chinese military, I would wait for this to get over and then go hell for leather for Taiwan. Or the South China Sea.
Yeah.
You know, Taiwan, South China Sea, I would go hell for leather. And by that time, the United States would be so exhausted that they would not be able to do a damn. They would not be able to do a damn. They have created this situation for themselves by being over-eager to wage wars. Donald Trump came on the promise that he would usher in an era of peace. He was a candidate for the Nobel Peace Prize. 9 countries he's attacked already. 9 countries he's attacked already. And actually, if you go purely by logic, this is a very, very pernicious argument. We will destroy our nation state, not just regime change. You are working for nation state destruction. You are arming the Kurds, you are arming the Baluchis, you are arming the Azeris. You are saying we will go for nation state destruction. A 2,000-year-old civilizational state will be destroyed. If it defends itself, my God, it is evil. How evil to defend yourself? Actually, it is a bit of a bizarre joke. This logic is a bit of a bizarre joke. You see, previously they were rushing, the NATO was rushing into these conflicts, right? This time it had to be cajoled, prodded by the United States, threatened by Donald Trump. I haven't liked it that Britain hasn't jumped in straight away. So slowly, these unwilling warriors are also being drawn in. As far as Iran is concerned, what do you expect it to do? What options does it have? Iran's options are, it will raise costs and consequences for the United States. It knows it is totally outclassed qualitatively, quantitatively. Its only hope lies in waging an economic war to raise the costs for the rest of the world so that they will be forced to intervene and call this madness off. Let me just take the case of India. 50% of let the other countries speak for themselves. 50% of our oil supplies come from the Gulf of Hormuz. 60% of our natural gas, every house, every chula in this country works on natural gas. That comes from there. The price of oil is about to touch $100 a barrel. The moment it does, inflation will start going up globally. The global economy will take a hit.
One minute.
The United States economy will take a hit.
In a world war situation, the war will be prolonged. There will be moments of relative peace, but the issues will remain unresolved. World wars, let me remind you, continue for years with consequences that nobody can game. And World War I, for example, was regional skirmishes. What did people say then? They said it's not a world war. It's just a little fight in the Balkan region between Balkan states and Austria, Hungary, Bosnia, Herzegovina. And then it blew up with the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, and then it became much bigger than anyone could plan. We are believing that it's going through a cycle and it's going to get resolved. But Velina Chakarova, you have the history of Europe right there behind you. And now, with the reach and vectors, nature of missiles, nature of pinpointed attack, we saw the attack on the Sri Lankan coast yesterday, just 300 kilometers from India. Is this a world war already? Are we dealing with the consequences of the first stage of the Third World War?
Thank you very much for the invitation. Now let me present my thesis, what I think is playing out, not only in this particular flashpoint, but actually in terms of interconnected flashpoints. Indeed, there is a world war, but not the one that most of the analysts and media outlets are highlighting, namely a World War III. And the two reasons why it is a world war, but not a World War III, it's a new Cold War. That means Cold War 2.0 are as follows. First important reason why it's actually not World War III is that there is less incentive or almost zero incentive on behalf of the United States and China and Russia to get involved in a direct kinetic confrontation, and that's actually good news for the whole of the world. So both sides, both blocks, if you wish, both systems with their alliances and structures and partners are basically now in this kind of situation of, let's say, new power equilibrium. That is why a new Cold War, where there is a lot of incentive to compete against each other. That is why we are observing the highest number of military conflicts and proxy wars, and now Iran, with Iran being the most recent example of such flashpoint. But all of this is happening below the threshold of a direct kinetic confrontation between the Americans, the Chinese, and the Russians. And let me be very clear, the Chinese and the Russians, they have already built some sort of non-Western or anti-Western power center where they have also split roles, they have built up a different kind of fields, and they have also invested in partnerships and allies. And Iran is a very, very clear example of such a partner for both China and Russia. And the second important reason why I claim that this is not World War III, and I think this is also very good news for our audience and actually for humankind, is the possession of nuclear weapons. These are rational actors, again, both sides, even though that, I mean, some might claim that right now there are no control regimes, as it was the case during the first Cold War. Most of the international regimes that have been more or less observing and trying to keep, of course, a certain threshold and most of all nuclear exchange not happening, they are now no longer in place. But I argue that at some point of time in the future, amid the new conventional and nuclear arms race between these three great powers, the triumvirate of great power politics right now, that's actually happening only and solely at the system level of international relations, at, if you wish, the tip of the iceberg.
If we have to avoid a world war, then the question will be, how do you open up the Strait of Hormuz? This is the world's most critical energy checkpoint. Either the Americans are going to have to provide cover to the Strait of Hormuz, or within 1 month there will be complete panic. Avishag Avi from Israel, from an Israeli perspective, has Israel started World War III? It's not about Iran alone now.
Arnab. So according to the Israeli perspective, we see it as the purely defensive war against Iran and its stated goal to annihilate the only Jewish state. So we don't see it as we have started a world war, a third world war, even though I do agree with some of the previous speakers that we do see some signs to not a regional, but more a global one, a global war. And it's solely because of Iran's decision to draft.
Please just give me a break. Yeah, I can hear you. I was just being disturbed by my producer. Sorry, thank you, please.
Okay. So I'm saying that it's the reason that we are seeing this war expanded beyond what it's supposed to be. It's because Iran has decided that they are going to drag the entire region, or as far as their missile capability is able to reach, they will drag the entire region and beyond towards this war. And I think we have to make a distinguish between regular, the previous world wars that we have to the one we are seeing right now.
1 minute, let me ask you. If a similar attack was to destroy the entire Israeli leadership and Iran were to be behind that attack, would the people of Israel, would the government of Israel just sit down and plead for peace?
Of course not, but you are comparing two different... No. Excuse me, Arnab,
would Israel not use its entire...
Can I answer your question?
Would Israel not use it? No, you have to be clear. So I find this fascinating, that today people in America, people in Israel are saying, we are shocked that Iran is responding. Well, I am shocked that you expected...
No, we are not shocked.
I am shocked that you expected Iran to capitulate.
I don't know who
today, if that were to happen to Russia,
we are not shocked.
Today, if this attack were to happen in Russia, if this attack were to happen in Poland, any country in the world, they would not sit quiet. I mean, you're looking at things too much from your perspective.
Excuse me, I did not say that we are shocked or know anyone that I know say that they are shocked. We are not a naive nation. We live in the Middle East and we won multiple wars, to gain our independence. So we are not shocked and we are absolutely aware of what Iran might do.
But you expected this to be a regional war. You expected to be a regional war, and it's not a regional war. It's a world war, and Iran is a very useful proxy for powerful countries like Russia and China who will use Iran for its advantage. And that is a fact. Nikita may not like it. But they always say, don't get into a fight that you can't win. It doesn't apply to you. You have, one minute. The general analysis, everyone on please, is that this is the best timing for Netanyahu because he's got huge challenges. There's an election coming up. And you'll never get an American president like Trump. You will never get a reckless American president like Trump who can be pushed over the edge. Someone with the military insanity of Pete Hegseth, who is a combination between Rambo and a self-styled Top Gun, who is an embarrassment every time that he speaks, who says the rules-based order did not operate. I remind you today, Avishag, that even after Germany was vanquished, at that time, even after Hiroshima, even after Germany lost, there were the Nuremberg trials. Goering was not just killed. There was at least a semblance of making things look like there is a rules-based order. You have American President and Defense Secretary who say, who cares about the rule-based order? It's a free-for-all. So, you know, the
May
thing
I
is,
respond to that?
It was the best ever timing for Netanyahu. It was the best ever timing. Use Trump. He's a volatile guy.
It was the best
he's a huge
timing for
narcissist. Push him over the edge. Achieve your political goals. Achieve your political goals before he becomes a lame duck president after the midterm in the US. This is a reality. And it's fantastic planning from Netanyahu, but terrible for the people of America, as one will soon realize. Because America can't end this war now. Nikita, I know you don't like what I'm saying, but these are all realities. What do you think? Isn't this a world war already?
In my opinion, of course, I have nothing to say against what you said about Trump aggressive policy. But we should understand, the world war isn't a new thing. It continues for more than 20 years. You remember Afghanistan, you remember Iraq, Libya, Serbia, and other countries attacked by NATO and US. Iran is just one next country. Of these countries that US looks, see a lot of oil and say, a lot of oil, no democracy, let's capture them, let's conquer them. Oh, Israel, a good thing. A little guy, you should help us to conquer more oil for our business. It is what exactly happening at the world for more than 20 years. Because after USSR has gone, it is not one strong power who can oppose United States aggression, who can say, we have enough troops to send there and to block your activity. It is a problem. So now we should think, we have Third World War, and if we don't want it to become nuclear, if you don't want this war to come to your house, and if you don't want your children to be killed, as hundreds of girls in Mina killed by American aviation, we should think how to stop United States. And the first step to stop this terrible world war, all of our countries should say, no military cooperation with the United States, no American soldiers or military bases on our territory. United States Army is a criminal terrorist gang, and we should
you are
not
overstating
have
things. Let's be realistic, Nikita. Nikita. Let's be realistic. Let's be realistic here. Let's be realistic here. Trump is only following in Putin's footsteps. Trump is doing what you did to Ukraine. He's gone a little more overboard. Putin didn't assassinate Zelensky. Trump has assassinated Ayatollah Khomeini.
No.
It's a reality. I mean, you never like this comparison, but the fact is.
Arnab, I'd like to finish my speech, please. Of course, you can mention Ukraine as another example of American aggression. In Ukraine and Syria, they still hardly use those troops, but they take local terrorist criminal gangs, pretends to be Syrian army or Ukrainian army. In fact, United States plays the same game on Ukraine. They want to take this land and those resources. And Russian and Ukrainian people are fighting back against American aggression. This war came to our homes because of United States aggressive policy. And India may be next.
Now, anyway, let's Nikita. Are we all in agreement? Because Nikita, may I just
India is going to be next now. Please understand it. You should be responsible. You shouldn't play these games and pretend it to be a joke. You should do something to prevent American aggression against your country.
No, I mean, what do you expect India to do here in this? I mean, like, don't drag us into every battle of yours. One sec, Saurabh.
Nikita, India can defend itself. That let me say that. There is a policy of strategic autonomy India has had for years, and they are implementing it even in this war. Despite the fact what India has done, people know, and that is respected. So I think you should not be selling your cheap narrative, trying to tell the world that India is next. India is well capable of defending, as it showed during Operation Sindoor when it struck Pakistan. And that operation, as India's Prime Minister has said, can bounce back. India's Prime Minister was one of the only leaders who had the courage to beat Israel just ahead of the war. But they also had somewhere where India's foreign secretary goes and signs the condolence book at the Iranian embassy. So that's a different model of strategic autonomy that India has. So you should not even tread on that territory, and you should not be preaching to India. That's my limited point. And one more point coming quickly to the China thing, and I want to tell Ainar about the empirical evidence that I have.
You have evidence of what? 1 minute. You have evidence of what, Saurabh?
Of why cities like Dubai were deliberately targeted. It was not the Iranian hand. There was a flood of capital happening from Hong Kong after China enforced the national security law. Almost $78 billion of capital was being flooded. And where was this going to? Dubai. Dubai was the big financial epicenter and that city gets targeted for a deliberate reason. It's not Iran alone. It's not the strategic assets. Airports getting hit, hotels getting hit. Obviously.
Are you saying that? Are you suggesting?
Absolutely.
There are two ways of saying it. There are two ways of saying it. There are two ways of saying it. That if Dubai gets hit, Chinese economic interests are, it helps China.
No,
but there's another thing to say that there was a Chinese hand behind Dubai's civilian targets being hit.
See,
all right,
Dubai was taking away a lot of Chinese flood of capital that was coming out of Hong Kong. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah, you're an idiot. Anyway, let me respond. The fact is
No. You don't have to be personal. I mean, see, everybody has the right to analyze things, Ainar. Let's avoid the idiot word here. It was not necessary. We'll expunge that.
Whoever you are, sir, don't get into this petty name calling. Get some cogent facts out, okay?
Okay, so here are the facts. UAE and China have a very, very close relationship, not only in trade, but they also, in terms of economics. It is one of the few places that has a renminbi settlement facility right there. They have been trying over these many years to be an access point for Chinese goods going into Africa. They've said repeatedly that they want to have 52 out of the 57 countries. They want to have representatives there in Africa, and they want to work closely with China. So this idea that you have, I don't know where you got your numbers, but the point is that they have a very good relationship. I know the people involved in terms of the ambassadorial level. You obviously do not, and you're just speculating. This idea that somehow China is always the evil person. Well, how is that possible? How did they get Donald Trump to start bombing Iran? I thought the negotiations were going well.
Let me counter you on that. China is
anything to say.
China is the apostle of truth and unification in the world. That's wrong, sir. What happened in Pahalgam? Now the Indian investigators are coming to the truth that there was a Chinese connection even behind the Pahalgam attack, which led to the confrontation between India and Pakistan.
Do you have any?
Yes.
You say these
the
things,
GoPro,
but you
GoPro was purchased in China. So let me tell you that your country does not have the courage.
I don't want to listen to your nonsense.
Ainar, let me put it differently. Let me put it differently, Saurabh. Let me put it differently to Ainar in a way that may be more palatable for him. Ainar, let me step in on this.
It's insulting.
Ainar, may I just?
If he has facts, fine.
Ainar, may I just step in on this, please, for a moment, everyone on. Ainar, is there some divine constellation in the world somewhere? Is there some divine force somewhere? Is there some universal tarot card somewhere, which always makes sure that whether it is COVID, which started in China but affected the rest of the world, right? Whether
so you're saying that they started
whether it is a 1 minute. See, you're getting provoked. You must not get provoked. You must listen to my question. I find
Arnab,
allow me to please complete that China, without lifting a finger visibly. Allow me, see, Tyler. When I hear the other side, then I'm fine. When I ask a question. When I ask a question here, and this question is, let me tell you, this question in the minds of people from San Francisco to New Delhi, that China always wants to win a war without committing a single foot on the ground. China wants to get a global advantage without hurting its own people, which is why the COVID virus being tested in a Chinese facility wiped out people in India, in the United Kingdom, in Europe, and in the USA, before we found the technology and the vaccines to help ourselves, and India helped people all over the world. Now, my question being, or rather observation, whether it is COVID or it is Pakistan's terrorist attack, right, on India, or whether it is the unfortunate developments that led to the attack on Israelis on October 7th, which, by the way, happened just a few days after the announcement of the India-Middle East corridor, which would have destroyed the Belt and Road Initiative and the billions and trillions of dollars that China has invested in the BRI. Whenever there is any threat to China, magically, Iran helps, Hezbollah helps, or COVID helps, or Pakistani terrorists help. And then China says, listen, we don't know. We just believe in Confucius. We don't know what's going on. We feel very sorry for you that you got wiped out. We feel very sorry that the Hezbollah killed the people. It's accidental that it happened a few days after Narendra Modi announced the Indian Middle East corridor. We're very sorry that Hindus were attacked by jihadi terrorists. We are very sorry, but it's just that the world is on our side. Things happen, you see. And then after that, China says, we don't even know what's going on in Iran. We just want a return to peace and peace and peace. And look here, Einar. I'll tell you one thing. I'll prophesize what will happen. You will benefit from all of this, and then you will attack Taiwan.
You have a problem with the United States, and somehow you want to make it all about China.
Who has a problem with the United States? Who has a problem with the United States? No, but who has a problem with the United States?
Obviously you do.
Who?
Because you
I
keep
personally, or who?
Some reason.
My network or our country?
You keep trying to find some reason to blame China.
No, we don't. First of all, we have no problem with the United States. We have a problem with an eternal and unbearable narcissist called Trump. There's no problem with the U.S. We've signed a trade deal with them.
All right. So here's the thing. Did China, incite any kind of riots in Nepal, in Bangladesh? Are there any fingerprints of the Chinese, or are they the U.S.?
No, I'll tell you what happened in Bangladesh, because I have personal knowledge of this. In Bangladesh, you put Bangladesh in a debt trap. The Americans intervened. They wanted St. Martin Island. They carried out the regime change. You did not help Sheikh Hasina, though she went to you for help. She went to you for help. You dropped her like a hot potato, like you do with all countries who you put in a debt trap.
No, but Arnab, seriously think about it. You always come on and you always have some narrative about how India is a victim. It's a wonderful place.
Wonderful. India is absolutely not a victim. India has given China, India is the only military which has given the Chinese army a bloody nose and sent you back packing. No, I don't want to get into war with you on this program. But don't tell me, you know the military strength of the Indians, which you experienced in Galwan and Doklam. and the Chinese were inept in dealing with the Indian army. Please, don't get me into this. And you don't expect me to believe that China did not have a role in provoking and encouraging the Pakistanis. You want to fight indirect battles with India? You wanted to use Pakistan? Why don't you come to Pakistan's help now when they are fighting Afghanistan?
Any evidence? Or are you just going to spout?
No, I'm not. You put me in this direction.
No.
I'm a pleasant guy. I'm discussing a potential world war which will benefit you economically.
And pretend that you have some sort of evidence. Please, why don't you tell everybody right now exactly how you came to these conclusions? How is it that China is behind everything when in fact you're facing off against the United States?
Listen.
Explain this.
Okay, one minute. Einar, see. I'm not getting into a quiz. I'm not getting into a quiz contest with you. But I'll rather bring my American guest into the debate, because why should you and I get into a quarrel? We don't have a quarrel individually.
You seem to be
the question is, do you not believe, Eric, that I'm sure
saying these nonsensical things.
See,
why? What's the point?
Trump is a very easily provoked guy. You'll never have a president like. Am I wrong, Eric?
That we are missing the point.
Abhishek, another American president wouldn't be as reckless as Trump.
I think you are missing the point in this entire show, okay? Whoever has a thing with America is Iran, and we are here to talk about Iran, okay? And its genocidal intent towards
Who's
Israel.
Behind Iran?
Whoever
behind
benefits. We don't know.
Iran?
I agree with the American speaker that we don't know who is behind Iran, but there is no doubt. There is no doubt.
China is not behind Iran, Eric.
Chinese, excuse me, can I finish my sentence? There is no doubt that the Chinese and the Russian bloc are benefiting from all of it. There is no doubt about that. But we don't know. We don't have the facts, okay? So let's focus on Iran right now and what they are trying to do. They are trying to create, because militarily they cannot...
Abhishek, may I please, 1 minute, may I please? You don't expect me to believe. Eric, let me get Eric in. Nobody wants me to let me... Eric, I don't believe that Iran is operating on its own. Nobody believes Iran is operating on its own. Even Iran does not believe that Iran is operating on its own. It's a global war right now. Some visible, some invisible. Eric.
So I think we can draw a comparison. We're not going to be able to definitively say China has their fingerprints on anything. I'm not privy to that intelligence. I don't have a security clearance like that. So I'm not going to be able to point a finger at anybody, but I do believe that the way that the system's set up, you have the BRICS nations. India is part of BRICS, just as America is part of the UN and NATO. We have these coalitions. There are coalitions. So when there's issues in other countries, the NATO forces tend to meddle in each other's business to help each other out or whatnot. I would be willing to say that the probability of another country within the BRICS organizations that is assisting Iran in some sort of way is probably high.
General Bakshi, coming to you last. What do you think will happen by the weekend? Will this drag?
Yeah. Arnab, we go by past patterns in making a forecast, a pattern-based forecast. Last time in June last year, 2025, the battle lasted 12 days, right? It was a mathematical function of the missile equations on both sides. How many missiles does Iran have, offensive missiles, vis-a-vis how many missiles interceptors do missile interceptors do the United States and Israel have? It is a pure mathematical equation.
No, but I just have a breaking news from Trump. He has just said, and this is very embarrassing.
Stock is limited.
Trump has said now, General Bakshi.
10 days and I see both sides at a point.
Trump is now looking very pathetic.
Both sides at a point
Trump has said, I need to be personally involved in selecting Iran's next leader. Khamenei's son is a lightweight. I was involved in choosing Delcy Rodriguez in Venezuela. Please ask me. I want to be involved in the appointment. Ladies and gentlemen, this is pathetic. I mean,
he had also said, I am the president of Venezuela.
No, but I don't know why he's talking like this. Somebody needs to get him on Grammarly. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for this discussion. It is surely a third world war, but as of now, a bigger war is being fought on Truth Social. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night and goodbye.
For a quick breather, Arnab will be right back with the debate.
Powered by Century Ply Club Prime. Raho befikar.
In the global employability rankings by Times Higher Education UK, only the following 6 institutions from India are ranked amongst the top 230 in the world for having the most employable graduates. IIT Delhi, IISc Bangalore, IIT Bombay, IIM Ahmedabad, IIT Kharagpur and Amity University.
Our pure Shahi Paneer Masala. Delicious, healthy, every day.
Sir, what about safety from fire? Cable कौन सा लगाया है?
अरे केबल का क्या है, कोई भी चलता है.
यही चलता है, बाद में जलता है. 90% of the electrical fires are caused due to short circuit. Give lot of importance to consider fire safe cable. Ignamo, the fire safe cables from Dravid. Remember, business is safe if your cable is fire safe.
प्यास बुझाए, ठंडक लाए, सबको भाए जीरा से. MTH का जलजीरा जीरा से.
जीरा से असली रिफ्रेशिंग, असली स्वाद, असली मजा.
अरे टेंशन किस बात की? सेंचुरी प्रोवुड का प्रीमियम प्लस है ना. लो एमिशन है, हाई डेंसिटी है, वाटर रेजिस्टेंट भी, टर्माइट एंड बोरो रेजिस्टेंट भी है. यानी ये है जहां नो टेंशन वहां.
प्रीमियम प्लस बाय सेंचुरी प्रोवुड.
आर प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ
8 मिनट में तैयार.
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला.
From the Republic Media Network headquarters, it's time for Arnab Goswami on the debate. Arnab Goswami on the debate.
On the show tonight, India's oil supply remains resilient. Is there a silver lining for India in the middle of all this chaos? At 8:30 p.m. tonight, is Russian oil back? And at 9 o'clock tonight, why can anyone argue, and how can anyone argue that this is not a world war already? First, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to go across the major news developments of the day. On day 5 of the war, there have been some defining images that came into our newsroom. The war has spread, ladies and gentlemen. And over the defining visuals of the day, which can go full frame, please. Iranian drones have struck Azerbaijan. We have videos of the drones striking what appears to be an area close to a school, and also striking the Nakhchivan airport. Azerbaijani president called it an act of terror and demanded that Iran apologize immediately. The second most important visual of the day is that of a powerful explosion a powerful explosion at an ammunition depot in Bushehr in Iran. This video came in about an hour ago. It shows the force of the US-Israel operations. Visual number 3, ladies and gentlemen, is that of the fire blazing at Fujairah, the oil depot in UAE after the Iranian attack. Second time in 3 days as it escalates. This visual is captured from a moving vehicle. There's a huge fire with plumes of smoke seen at the oil refinery. Visual number 4 of the day on day 5 of the war. The Israeli missile strike on Bandar Abbas. Ladies and gentlemen, this is near the Strait of Hormuz. The strike is very, very devastating. It's captured on camera. You can see ships burning and the port on fire. These are the 4 defining images of the day. Amichai Chikli is the Minister for Diaspora Affairs of Israel, and he's my first and exclusive guest tonight. Mr. Chikli, the way the war is going right now, one question which is being asked almost everywhere is this: where do you see this headed? Where are you seeing this headed? Is there any clarity in Israel or where this is headed and for how long it's headed?
Yes, absolutely. We have very specific goals for this war. One is to remove existential threats, first and foremost, the ballistic missiles of Iran. As we saw throughout the war, and this war didn't start last week, okay? This war started on October 7th, and then immediately on October 8th with Hezbollah, and then with the Houthis, and later on with Iran itself. So this is a continuation of the war that was started by Iran proxies on October the 7th. Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, Iran itself, it is a continuation of the same war. Now we are fighting both Israel and the US to first remove the ballistic missiles infrastructure, and second, to eliminate Iranian military nuclear program. These are our goals in this operation. Also, we want to create the conditions that will allow the Iranian people to regain their freedom and to have a different regime that they are supporting. Because we also, what happened in recent months when tens of thousands of innocent Iranian people who went to demonstrate against this terror regime were brutally murdered in the streets of Iran.
But my question was, where is this headed? I got your point about weakening Iran, but I found that in your comments, you have not really spoken yet about a regime change in Iran. Is it because that's not very clear which direction that is taking in Iran?
No. I want to be very specific. We want to create the condition that will allow the Iranian people themselves to remove the current regime. What will be next? What will be the form of the next regime? This is up to the Iranian people. We can help the Iranian people. They were asking for help. President Trump said, help is going to come. Prime Minister Netanyahu said, help is going to come. We're going to help the people in Iran who are suffering from the brutal massacre of this regime and torturing people, etc. So we have help, and we are going against the IRGC, against the Basij, against the regime targets. But in order to replace the regime, only the Iranian people themselves can do it.
You've been advocating this personally also for a while. In fact, in January also, well before the strikes began, you and Foreign Minister of Israel were publicly posting support for Iranian street protests, calling it, I quote, a fight against darkness. You were therefore signaling publicly that Iranian people were ready to rise up. Now the war has started. It's going to be day 6. The Iranian people haven't really taken any advantage, if there are indeed so many people who want a regime change, they haven't taken any advantage of the circumstances. Is it because they believe that the regime that represents Ayatollah Khamenei, even after his death, continues to be prominent, strong, and capable of being vindictive. In that sense, has there not been adequate power projection that appears to weaken the Iranian establishment?
Well, look, we're now in the middle of the offensive. This is not the time to go on the streets while you have bombing and you have the war going on. The test for the Iranian people will come after the military stage, within 3, 4, or 5 weeks. That will be the stage when we will need to see if the Iranian people are seizing the opportunity that was created by the US and Israel. So we cannot judge now, okay? Because think about yourself. You have a war going outside, okay? You don't expect from the people to go out in the middle of a war. So we need to finish the military stage of the war, and then we can judge and see what are the Iranian people are going to do.
But there's no indication. Trump says that when we are finished, take over your government, it'll be yours to take. Right? Raza Pahlavi has been making statements once again, but people don't identify with him. Mr. Minister, is it possible that after bombing a country, killing its supreme leader, and threatening whoever is going to be its next leader with assassination, that all of this may be strengthening the IRGC's grip rather than loosening it?
No, I think that the IRGC in its weakest position since the establishment of this terror regime in 1979. And I'm repeating again the message. The aggression came from Iran. The aggression came with funding of Hamas. 90% of the funding for Hamas came from Iran. For Hezbollah, the same. The Houthis, the same. This is not a war that we have started. This is a war that was orchestrated and initiated by Iran proxies as part of the wider program that they said openly. We want to eliminate the state of Israel. Khomeini, and later on Ahmadinejad, and later on Khamenei, the entire leadership in Iran, the fanatic religious leadership of Iran, said time after time, we are committed to the goal. They have a clock in the middle of Tehran counting down to the elimination of the state of Israel. And it's not just Israel, by the way. Iran has brought destruction. Take a look at the civil war in Syria and Hezbollah butchering the Sunnis. Take a war on Yemen. Take a war on their response. And by firing missiles to the entire Gulf states, Kuwait, the Emirates, etc., etc. So we can see the nature of this regime is attacks on sea, on land, with his proxies, and he himself. So therefore, I think, yes, it's uncomfortable to deal with this war. It's for several weeks. It's going to be intense. It's going to be difficult. We're also suffering casualties. We had 9 people killed in Beit Shemesh just 2 days ago. So this is a war. We don't have 100% clarity, okay, about the outcomes, but we can definitely see that we are bringing this regime into its weakest point, and we are creating an opportunity for the Iranian people to seize the moment and to take their freedom back. And they deserve it. And I have zero empathy, and I don't care about the regime in Iran and the IRGC and the Basij. These people killed much more Iranian than they killed Israelis. Okay, they have killed tens of thousands of Iranian citizens, innocent people, young men and young women who went on the streets and were fired by the Basij. Yeah. So I think we are on the right course, and we need to be a little bit patient, because the change of the regime will not happen in days and not in weeks. It will take months. It will take months, but we are creating the condition.
Are you, because you're a minister, in the Israeli cabinet.
Yeah.
Are you speaking on behalf of the Israeli government when you call Keir Starmer one of the weakest leaders in the world? When you call Macron one of the weakest leaders in the world? When you say that you speak on behalf of the British people and not Keir Starmer, how are you so sure that an Englishman would want to fight your war? And there is a contrary view that it is important for people like Keir Starmer to look at what is in the interests of the United Kingdom. So he's sending just an hour back, he's sending his 4 Typhoon jets to Qatar, but in defense. Are you trying to dictate British foreign policy?
Not at all. I'm not trying to dictate, and we didn't ask Keir Starmer to join the war. The question was referring to his statement that he will not allow the use of his bases. It's not about participating, but it's like Sanchez, who said that he will not allow the U.S. to use its bases, and therefore, and also my remarks are not just because of the war against Iran. My remarks goes all over the time where Keir Starmer has led Britain. So it's not just about the current moment. And we can see that Britain is becoming weaker and weaker under his administration. We can see the Islamists taking over the cities we can see the anti-Semitism on the rise in Britain. And we can see that in terms of foreign policy, he cannot take a bold stand and he cannot say clear messages regarding Iranian Revolutionary Guards and the dictatorship in Iran. And we didn't see him condemning what happened in Iran in the way that it should have been. But that is regarding Keir Starmer. So I think, yes, he is one of the weakest leaders in the world. Yes, I speak on behalf of the government of Israel. Yes, we do not forget that he, in the middle of a war, recognized a non-existent Palestinian state, awarded Hamas for its aggression, awarded Hezbollah in Iran for their aggression. So this is well-based, and it is much bigger than just the current situation with Iran.
Well, Mr. Chikli, we'd like to keep in touch. I think your views are interesting. And may I just say that you're far more moderate when you come on television compared to your very, very strong comments which are on social media, which I've been following. But that's an emerging young leader from Israel, ladies and gentlemen. He said he speaks for the government of Israel while criticizing Keir Starmer. UK is in a fix, really. Amichai Chikli, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us on the Republic Media Network.
And I just want to say one last sentence.
Yes.
It was very moving. It was a great moment to have Modi in the Knesset. I was listening to the Prime Minister's Modi in the Knesset. He gave a beautiful speech, so important. I want the people in India to know that we see India as one of our closest allies, second only to the US. So I just want to share my perspective on India. We really see a mutual values that we share.
Yes.
Two peaceful nations. And when you are a peaceful nation, it doesn't mean
Amichai, I want you to stay on for just 1 minute, because my next guest is someone who the whole country respects, is probably India's most prominent public intellectual. And he's joining me now. He's the chairman of the Vivekananda International Foundation. He's a legendary journalist, legendary thinker, and great geostrategist. And my next perspective to him, and he joins us right now, Mr. Gurumurthy. Mr. S. Gurumurthy is joining us from Chennai. And my next section, Amichai, and by the way, Mr. Gurumurthy, our first guest, I just was introducing him to you. Amichai Chikli is Minister for Diaspora Affairs of Israel. And he was ending his conversation with a deep sense of respect for the way in which Mr. Narendra Modi spoke in the Knesset. And he said that it's a great, there's a strong emotional bond that he himself felt as a minister when he was there in the cabinet. So would you like to say something to him, and then we'll switch? So Amit Shah, I just wanted to introduce you because this conversation flows from what you're saying.
Namaste.
My next subject with Mr. Gurumurthy was about whether there's a silver lining in this for India. Would you like to say something to the minister before we start our one-to-one conversation? Mr. Gurumurthy, please.
Actually, these two are two ancient civilizations. And I have pursued the history of Israel, ancient and modern. And my spiritual guru, Kanchi Mahaswami, always told me that India and Israel must come together. When we were poles apart, we didn't even have a proper relationship with them. And Swami Dayananda Saraswati, who headed the Hindu Dharma Acharya Sabha, entered into an MOU with the Jewish rabbinate. They both agreed that Hinduism and the Jewish religion, they agree on a God who has no form. Our God is Brahman, their God is formless. They signed an MOU that the forms in the Hindu pantheon is not Hinduism. It is only a step to understand a formless God. This MOU was signed in 2008 in Tel Aviv, and that is how the civilizational relationship between the two nations began growing. And after 2014, it took a geopolitical form, and now it has become between two old civilizations coming together in the contemporary world to face common danger. Both of us face danger from Islamic fundamentalism and terrorism. Okay, so I was listening to his exposition to you, and I'm extremely happy that Israel has initiated this move. And I will not be arrested by the war theater, and I will go into what it has exposed the world to. So
yes.
I would
may I just thank him before we carry on with you. So Amikai, this is so interesting. And while I am often cynical of war and its immediate consequences, I don't believe regime change can immediately happen. Let me say this to you, Amikai, that there is a lot of sympathy and empathy for Israel's position and your war against Islamist and jihadi terrorism. So in that sense, you have our full support. I thank you very much, Mr. Minister. We'll remain in touch. Thank you very much.
We feel the same.
Yes,
we
please.
See what's going on with Pakistan. We are fighting the same vicious and evil radical ideologies. Same vicious and radical ideologies. We are two ancient nations, two peaceful nations, but we need to be very, very strong because our enemies are very serious. May God bless India. And thank you for this wonderful interview. It was really, I'm really happy that I was introduced to this outstanding intellectual and to yourself. So, namaste.
Thank you. Namaste. Namaste, Amikai. We'll be in touch. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, today's section I have with Mr. Gurumurthy is simple. Is there a silver lining for India? My dear viewers, I would request all of you to follow Mr. Gurumurthy's threads and retweets on X. Now, he puts it in a larger context. And I believe, Mr. Gurumurthy, that you have tweeted that one of the biggest takeaways of this ongoing war is that Wahhabism, which Saudis funded, which virtually destroyed the internal peace and communal harmony in many ways within India, is now under challenge. Is that the silver lining for India in your view?
See, actually, if you move away from the war theater, I won't be arrested by the war theater, which is a day-to-day occurrence, who gains what and all that. But what is the takeaway from what has happened? Nobody planned it.
Yeah.
For example, this entire thing started with Iran proclaiming for the last 4 decades death to America and death to Israel. If a country keeps on saying this, how do you expect Israel or America to view Iran with any sense of friendliness? This is the first point. Then the Hamas attack was an attempt to execute this idea. And that is how the whole war started. And so this war is not a new war. It is a continuation. And this war was inevitable. If it doesn't happen today, it will happen at some time later. So I will not be arrested by this war theater at all. And I will go into what this has exposed. When US and Israel attacked Iran, it said it is Islam versus US and Israel. But the very next day, Iran began attacking all the Muslim countries. And they happen to be Sunni Muslim countries, Islamic countries. A Shia Islamic country attacking Sunni Islamic country brings about a paradigm shift, because these Sunni Islamic countries are already fighting Islamic terror and you are now attacking them, which means US plus the Sunni Islamic nations which are fighting Islamic terror on the one hand, and Iran with all the terrorist groups on the other, is the formulation today. This is precisely what India would love the world to encounter. Such a thing could never have happened by any geopolitical formulation or any geopolitical strategy. It happens only from hidden forces of history suddenly act, because the hidden intentions come out in a situation like this. So what Iran said as Islam versus the rest, Islam itself destroyed that concept and turned it into Islam which wants to fight Islamic terror, to ally with US and Israel against Iran, which has allied with all the Islamic terror groups. And now, in this, the most important difficulty is faced by Pakistan, which is partly gripped by Islamic terror, influenced by Islamic terror, and which used Islamic terror to fight India. And it is now being asked by Saudi Arabia, now you attack Iran. Pakistan has openly supported Iran. And now Saudis are asking Pakistan to attack Iran. Can there be anything more that India could ask? The more difficulty Pakistan is in, the more advantageous the situation for India. Particularly when Pakistan is in difficulty because of its own Islamic ecosystem, where its duplicity is getting exposed. This is an important takeaway for India. Another thing, look at how Israel and India coming together has resulted in another geopolitical advantage. Prime Minister Modi makes a huge impact on Israel. And of course, this has not come about in one day. There is a history of a decade behind it. And he requests Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu to support Afghanistan, which is fighting Pakistan and which is fighting Islamic ISIS within Afghanistan. And Israel agrees to give an aid package. Could anything more India would want? Now you have to set it in the background of how the world order has changed in the last 5 years. Now there is no common good for which all nations are joining together, including environment. No trade, no economic issues which are common issues on which the world is working together. Every nation is for itself today. It has to work out its own friends. It has to work out its own bilateral and plurilateral trade arrangements.
Yes.
America has declared that it is for America is for America. And how can India say that it will stand for some other country which is not in its interest today?
No,
so
the
India
battle for oil, the battle for oil, Mr. Gurumurthy, is making this war now global because, as you have also retweeted, I think, from the Islander, now the Iranians are very strategically hitting pipelines which carry Azerbaijani crude across the Caucasus. That has been targeted. So it will create an oil shortage for Israel. The pipeline that has been hit will affect 30% of Israel's oil. So this tells me that there is a strategic mind, regardless of the impression Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump and Marco Rubio want to give. There is somebody in Israel taking extremely cold strategic decisions in this battle for oil. However, I want to go back to your commentary on Pakistan, sir. Sir, there are 5 reasons I believe Pakistan, the situation is volatile. Number 1, Pakistan's geopolitical utility is under question. Maybe for the first time in 50 years, there's a major conflict and they have no role. Their utility for America is under question. They have no role for America. They can't afford to take a role. As you say, they're also being threatened by Iran. And they are facing relentless attack by the Afghans and the Baluchis. Sir, you have tweeted that Pakistan has leveraged on falling on Trump's feet in Operation Sindoor with the Saudis. Now that scene has changed. It can't fool the Middle East, which is Sunni fighting Shia, and they will get crushed in the Shia-Sunni war. Sir, to add to that, they have not done anything to defend Saudi's strategic interests, despite having an agreement signed recently for mutual military assistance if either country is targeted. What do you think they will do? Will they just sit here and do nothing? Will they be like Switzerland in this whole case? And how can we take advantage of this for our long-standing objective vis-a-vis Pakistan?
See, I will put it in 3 silos. Saudis felt that America may not be able to defend them against Israel. They felt that they should somehow work out an arrangement with Iran.
Yeah.
They moved even with Turkey to bring about some kind of arrangement with Iran. It actually meant their confidence in America was getting reduced. And since Pakistan is a nuclear power, they thought it is better to have an arrangement with Pakistan. So if anything happens to Saudi Arabia, Pakistan will step in as a partner. This entire thing changed because of the outcome of this first day of this war itself, where Iran, for no reason, after having declared it is a war between Islam and the West, that is America and Israel, it began attacking in the guise of attacking the American bases. It began attacking the nations which and their infrastructure and even their hotels, and turned the war into what I told you as a war with Iran and the terrorist group and extremism on the one hand, and those Muslim nations which are fighting it on the other, aligning with America. So this has put Israel and Arabic nations on the one side, which means the threat that Saudi Arabia faces is not from Israel today. It is facing from Iran. And there is a historical basis for this. And so the pact between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan has become irrelevant. That is why they are testing Pakistan. Say you attack, because you are a partner, you attack Iran, which Pakistan cannot. If it attacks Iran, Pakistan will be on fire. So that is, Pakistan is not being reduced to irrelevance. It is being put in a corner from where Pakistan may not survive as a nation. So it is not that it will become a Switzerland. Number two, Pakistan is facing a war with on both sides. And if, as the Pakistan president says, India will also do something against Pakistan, where will Pakistan be? And so the entire foundation of Pakistan is at risk. It won't be Switzerland. Another thing, so far as this oil is concerned, precisely what Ukraine did, that has happened to the oil pipelines in Middle East. Now the entire Europe is looking to Russia for gas supplies, oil supplies. The sanctions of America against Ukraine, against Russia, are bound to collapse. India will now buy oil from Russia because the war has been started by America.